it's 4 years till the day that night in Amsterdam. Lucas Moura, hat-trick, sending us to the Champions League final. So I just wanted to do a bit of a nostalgic piece on that day and talk about our memories. You know, it's been a very dark time being a Spurs fan at the moment. So let's bring up the mood. Let's talk about the good times and let's talk about that night in Amsterdam. I mean, what were your memories of it, Ash? Where were you? Where'd you watch it? What were your feelings?
Oh, that was painful. Oh, I'm not gonna lie. You know what? I watched the game in my room and we went 1-0 down. And it's mad how time flies because I think back then, that's only 4 years ago, I think I was more emotional. I was way more emotional. Like, we got to like 1-0 down. I was effing and blinding 2-0. I was like, it's typical Spurs 3-0. I switched it off. I'm not going to lie to you. I got so upset, I just switched it off. I switched it off and I was just so angry. I was so
fan. You're a part-time fan, Ash.
Upset. No, I'm not gonna lie. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't watch it anymore. I was so emotional, but obviously I've changed since then. I've calmed down a lot, and I heard 3-1, flipped back on, and then after that it was just like scored the second one. I was just like, no way. The final goal is just like even the second goal, the footwork was just mad. This is prime Lucas Moura, like. And the way we scored it so quickly, the emotions went from all the way down to all the way up. And it hadn't dawned to me that we were going to the final because I was just amazed that we pulled it back, if I'm being honest. I was just like, I don't know if I can compare that emotion to anything else. I'll be honest with you, and I shouldn't say that too loud, but it's real talk, man. Like, football can either put you in a dark place or it can give you 100% ecstasy. And like, That gave me goosebumps. I can't lie. That gave me goosebumps. The whole situation, like the way he scored, the way he jumped in the air, the way the whole teammates, they all run off the line, the way Poch was crying. I said, this is mad. And I always thought, I never thought I'd see that day when Spurs would get to a Champions League final. And I always remember what my mum said. My mum was like, she was like, like that positive person. Don't worry. They'll come good one day, like. And I remember her saying that when I was 8 years old, yeah. I had my Spurs cake, and I think we lost the game. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, mom, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Like, when your mom's trying to be nice and that, do you know what I mean? God
Mumsy knows best, Ash Mag. Mumsy knows best.
Mumsy knows best. God bless her soul, man. She knew what she was talking about. But yeah, obviously, she wasn't around to see it, but she just, like, yeah, she said, don't worry, they'll come good one day. And then to see that happen, I was like, I just thought of her, like, like, God bless her, I never thought that moment would ever happen. Do you know what I mean? That was quite emotional. So, yeah, man, it's to seeing it back again, like seeing it on social media, it brought back a few memories, man. I can't lie.
Sean?
I'll be honest, mate. I didn't know so this is 2019, right? So I'd spent like the previous 7 years of my life on like secondment around the world with working with Google, and I'd lost a little bit of like touch with Tottenham, if I'm entirely honest. Like, and I come home and I get stuck straight back in. I'm at Waterloo Station watching the semi-final with my dad, and it was the most emotional like roller coaster of my life. And I'll be entirely honest with you. I came home after what happened in the final. I remember the final, obviously, about a couple of weeks later, disaster. I come home and I remember speaking to my dad, and I had a bit of like an estranged relationship with my dad for a little while, but I'd carried on watching the highlights all the time. I must have watched the BT highlights video on YouTube like 50 times over that night. And then that's how I discovered your channel. I found your highlight video, like your most watched video. But I'd watched it and was like, this is fantastic. Look at these guys. Look at it from the crowd reaction. And then I put it to one side, and then you shoot forward to 14 months ago, when I first got into the Tottenham online community. And the whole thing with me starting in the community was on a pre-match, the Burnley away game that was snowed off. It was you guys, I think, were on the way to the game. Maybe you were on the way to the game, but Dave was doing what Irish Hotspur was doing the pre-match pump up, and I was the last person to talk. And then during that moment, the game was called off because of snow. I ended up having a debate and an argument with Dave for 55 minutes about Daniel Levy. And then everything from there, he then invited me on his channel. Everything then snowballed. Now I'm a part of the Tottenham community. But it took me like 3 months later to figure out that the video that I had watched 100 times was your video. And I had no way of remembering or recognizing that like, I'm now part of the community that I'd only found out about online because of that night in Amsterdam. So it was a wonderful, wonderful night that followed up with the most disappointing finish in what happened that night against Liverpool. But I love you guys, and I would never probably have ever even figured out or found out about the online Tottenham community had it not been for Lucas Moura's hat trick that night. So.
Wow.
Amazing
what
how
a
the world turns.
beautiful story, right? Sean. What a
Changing
beautiful
lives.
story. I love it.
Yeah, it has changed my life, mate. Because Tottenham now is the most, like, this community thing is now such a massively instrumental part of my life that had it not been for Lucas Moura, I probably wouldn't have even discovered you guys doing this stuff.
It was mad. It was mad being in Amsterdam for that game and being with all the Tottenham fans. Do you remember we were going to the game? I think we were going with a bunch of Tottenham fans, and I don't know what happened. I remember you were chanting outside the ground.
Oh, the Ajax fan.
And then the Ajax fan he just lumps him one and runs off.
He tried to. He came up to me. And like his fist was like that, and I held his arm like that so he couldn't punch. And then, like, I don't know, he just ran off. I don't know what happened.
I remember. And then we got separated from the Tottenham fans. We ended up somehow going in the wrong way. Like, we had to go there was a way the away fans should have gone. And we ended up going this whole long way around. It took like half an hour or something to walk around the ground. So we ended up getting in. We walked in. Just as we walked in, De Ligt scores his first goal, just as we were walking in. So we're like, oh, God. Like, what we walked into is...
We changed seats about 20 times that game.
I know. We never had
we
a
were just
regular
all
seat.
over the away end that night.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I remember when it 2-1, I was like, I had a beer in my hand. You can see it in the vlog. I had a beer. I was like, 2-1. All right, maybe we're back in it. And then at 2-2, I'm chucking that beer. I was like, we are in this. We are definitely getting that goal. But then honestly, it did. You did think it wasn't going to happen, but it's unbelievable. You look at the clock when Onana is taking that goal kick. He's taking it at like 94 minutes, 50 seconds. Ajax have a goal kick. And somehow they get it back. We win the ball back. We lump it forward, flick on to Lucas all within 10 seconds. It's mad how that all happens. It's actually crazy. And Lucas actually puts it in like even before time is up. Like, I'm like, the chances of that happening and like the way it happened are just, you're never going to get that again. It's 1 in a billion probably the way that happened. Unbelievable. I remember watching that goal going in like it felt like slow motion, the way it was heading into that corner. I remember, like, I just honestly, and obviously everyone's seen the vlog by now, but it's just...
Did that vlog change your trajectory as well?
The channel's trajectory, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I would say it improved it. I would say a lot. Look, it's our most watched video, and obviously everyone was following on from our second most watched video, which was the Man City away game. So that was obviously like both of them were just unbelievable moments, unbelievable games of football. But I guess it definitely allowed us to be more seen. I wouldn't say it completely changed the trajectory, but it was amazing exposure for sure.
I think that whole Champions League run did wonders for the channel. That's for sure. I mean, the Man City game was absolutely mad. I mean, no one really talks about that Man City game anymore because of the Ajax. They've actually trumped it, and you thought, like, how could anything ever trump that
Man City game? Was known as like the best Champions League game of all time at the time.
At the time,
But
like,
for about 2 weeks.
For about 2 weeks. I don't think I've ever been as emotional about anything in life apart from that game in Amsterdam. And I'm like, after the game, what happens. We're in the stadium for ages. After the game, we go to Amsterdam Square. We're drinking with all the fans. We're singing up until, I think, 3 a.m. We're still there in Amsterdam Square, just singing our hearts out and whatever. Get back to the hotel at about 3:34. And in our hotel, we had like a little, there was like a common room where there was a massive screen and people could just go there, smoke and watch whatever they wanted on this big screen. And I go in there with Ashley. We were the only ones in there, and the highlights of the game are playing on this big screen. And I'm watching the highlights, and I swear, like, tears are rolling down my eyes. And I'm like, I go to Ashley, like, did that just fucking happen? Did that just fucking happen? Are we actually in the Champions League final with tears strolling down my eye? And I just think back to that moment every time, and I'm just like, what the hell? I still don't believe, like, really that happened. Like, how did Spurs get to a Champions League final under those circumstances? It's just mental.
You know
to
what?
Think about.
And that is when I make I get criticised a hell of a lot in the community for saying like top four does matter to me more than like lifting a trophy is super important, right? I get it; it's the pinnacle of football. But I'd rather have that experience, and then obviously what happened against Liverpool a few weeks later, so be it. But I was at all of the Tottenham trophies all the way back to when I was like from 1990. Every time that Tottenham were at a final, I was there, and I don't remember the moments of those games. Whether we lost or won, I was at the game in Cardiff against Blackburn when we lost 2-1. I remember the 5 fucking hour journey out of there, getting caught in traffic. I was at the 1998. I was there. Like, I remember 2008. I remember all of those things, but I don't remember them anywhere near as vividly. And I'd never felt the emotion anywhere near as peak as I remember on that Amsterdam night in a pub in Waterloo Station with my dad. And to me, like, that's why I feel like being in the Champions League is special, because in order to get to that level, you have to overcome some of the best teams, and that to me is something that should be prioritized. You can win the Carabao Cup without playing anyone. The variance can afford you to get all the way through to the final without needing to ever beat anyone that is of your level. Doesn't always happen. Doesn't happen often at all, but there are scenarios where you can get through and lift a trophy without playing anyone of your level. But to win the Champions League or to get to the final of the Champions League, Tottenham had to go through a roller coaster of emotions. And that's why I think the top four is, even though it shouldn't be considered a trophy, I do think it's important. I do think it's massively important. And I would rather be in the Champions League every season than finish 7th and occasionally lift the Carabao Cup if it meant playing against Plymouth or Wycombe Wanderers or Southend along the way. To me, what we did against Man City, what we did against Ajax will live with me until my last breath.
Yeah, I completely echo those thoughts. But any closing words from you, Ash?
No, man. I respect. I think this is the reason why we're so like Conference League. I get the whole idea with the fans of the Conference League because of what we went through in the Champions League, and it's like I think neutral fans as well, they fell in love with Tottenham. I think we got a lot of support from the outside of community. I think we were representing Britain at the time, and we weren't the typical team that normally gets through, and all of a sudden there's like a new team on the scene and they play exciting football. That was the most important thing. We did it the right way. Do you understand? And so I get why fans want an exciting attacking manager, and I understand why fans may not want to be so enthusiastic about this Conference League. I just think that was just a nice way to round it up, man. Personally, the Champions League talk and the moment we had in the final.
Big up. Well, I love going through that night, because it's just even now I'm getting shivers up my spine and goosebumps on my back.